this is the greatest career story that I have, that I will never forget, probably not even on my deathbed. And if there's one career story that I will always tell, it's this, just because of how significant it was for me and how much I learned from it, and I keep on learning from it, and I keep on teaching others about. On the first day when I became a manager, I was told that I have a new project for my team, the team that I'm managing now. The project's kickoff meeting was to start in a couple of hours. So I had little time to prepare for, to understand what's the project about, who am I dealing with. Regardless, I felt comfortable. I was like, okay, it's just going to be the first meeting. There's nothing serious about it. To my surprise, it was way more than that. The other side, they had a very, very strict but experienced project manager who was demanding from day one and demanded that I hand over some project plan, some documents. I had nothing. And not only that, when I told him, hey, give me some time, let me prepare these documents for you, he said, all right, when? I said, I don't know, maybe a week. I said, no, I don't want a maybe. I want a specific time. What day, what time will you deliver this for me? Now, what that did for me was it turned from a project management issue or objective to an ego thing for me, at least. And this is something that I admit now that I don't like about myself, and it was a bit immature of me back then. But hey, I was inexperienced in this field. I felt like, okay, he's trying to force his will on me and my team, and I'm not gonna let him. So I said, you know what? I'll get back to you when I get back to you. I promise you, I'm gonna work hard on it. I cannot commit the date right now. He was not satisfied, but that basically set the tone for what's about to come, what's gonna happen for the next 2 months. And a lot did happen. So for the next couple of months, we argued almost on a weekly basis on the smallest things or the biggest things. One of the smallest things, honestly, looking back on, I'm quite embarrassed about this. We submitted a software design or a system design for the application that we're going to build. He was not happy about not what we designed, but the software that we used to create this diagram. He said, this is unsatisfactory. It doesn't look professional. Change the software that you're using. Use this software instead. I refused. I said, no, I don't think so. It looks good enough for me. We're not going to change it. And that turned into a 10 minutes argument. And eventually I relented, but I was not happy about it. That kind of reflects what was happening on a weekly basis or a bi-weekly basis. We would argue on the smallest things. I would relent eventually, but not immediately. Again, there was an ego side of things, or an ego side of me and how I was handling that. I have to admit, again, not happy about that. But the key thing here is whenever we would agree on something, he was not happy about my attitude, and rightly so, honestly. And I was not seeing that was an issue. Like, hey, he's getting what he wants. Why is he upset about my attitude or how I'm making it difficult for him? Because in my head, I wasn't making it difficult. I was trying to ensure that whatever reasons he was asking for, whatever things that he was asking for, are justified. In my opinion, back then, they were not justified. I felt my method of doing things was way better than what he was suggesting, and I did not feel like I needed to change my methods to match his. Eventually, even though we would walk out of a meeting agreeing on a couple of items, he started complaining about me, basically sending an email complaining about my attitude, how I was approaching things during those meetings. Again, I did not see it as an issue. When those in my company received those complaints, they would come to me saying, hey, what's going on? I said, I don't know, honestly. I'm like, we agreed on this item, that item. I don't know why he's upset about these things. And eventually, one person said, you know what? Rather than having these meetings online, why don't we go meet with the guy, meeting face to face, and see what's going on? What happened when we eventually met him changed the way I do things forever. And I continue to look back at this moment because of how it inspired me to change and to see myself differently and see my flaws very accurately and very clearly. When we eventually met with the guy, we spent an hour and a half talking with him. It started nice. It was respectful. It was very agreeable in the first 30 minutes. But then he started criticizing us and how we do things, me and my team. In which I sat on the edge of my chair about to reply to his criticism or defending my team, to which my colleague put his hand on me, or like he just gestured like, hey, let me take this. And what he did blew my mind. He did not address the criticism directly. He did not justify how we do things or why I was the way I did things for. He said, you know what? Is this what you need so that the progress of this project continues smoothly? He said, yeah. I was like, okay, we'll do X, Y, and Z. How about that? The guy was so happy. He immediately changed his attitude and how he looked at us. For me, it was mind-blowing to see how my colleague was able not to deflect the blame, but not to make it the core issue of the meeting. Instead, what he focused on was how can we make sure we're progressing well on this project in a way that would match what we need to do and the scope of work that we committed to, but also the requirements from the clients, regardless of how difficult it may be or how unjustified the things he was asking for. He continued to find ways to agree with the client without engaging in the blaming game, and finding methods that was a balance point between us and them. And that was something that I lacked. What I realized then that this was a super skill from this colleague of mine. His context on the project was extremely minimal. He just read a couple of project documents, sat with me a couple of times, understood the project, and was immediately able to find solutions that would satisfy the client's requirements and the challenges that we were facing. And for me, that was a superpower. Imagine not knowing enough about the project, but able to find solutions in these kind of challenging moments. What I realized later on, it was that the skill was not communication, was not negotiations, was not even knowing the politics of how to do things or project management. It was purely his problem-solving skills was out of the charts. And that was something that I was lacking. Why? Because of my ego and my inexperience. I always tell people that regardless of the problem that you're facing, could be technical, non-technical, could be finance, could be programming, it's how good of a problem solver you are that really matters at the end of the day. Because problem solving can make you find any method to solve the problem that you're facing, regardless of the technical or non-technical area that you're involved in. And that's what I find rare in people, and only common in those who are very experienced, but especially focused on the problem at hand that needs to get solved, and they do not engage emotionally into the situation, the challenge that they are facing. That's something that I had to work on at the time, that I just realized when I heard him talk with the client, and now that I apply all the time. Now I have to admit, sometimes I do forget this. I get really charged up because I feel passionate about the things that I'm doing. But when I realize, oh wow, wait, hold on, I'm too engaged emotionally. I need to take a step back and read the situation and find a solution that just did not occur to in any of our minds. Those who are attending that meeting, just because of how charged up we are emotionally. That's the common challenge, or the biggest challenge that I see in people not being able to find solutions, aside from being inexperienced or just incompetent. The main thing sometimes is you can deal with a person who is very experienced, but who is too charged up emotionally to find a proper solution.